Hey everybody, this is Pete from the Break It Down Show. I'm with Tracy. We are trying to fix our comms. Nothing appears to be wrong except for we're relying on technology to be right. And she can hear me. I can't hear her, and I'm assuming that you guys can't hear me. Tracy, would you talk for a minute just to see if this fixes anything?
Hello. Does
not seem to fix anything. All right, I understand the problem now. I think I can fix it here. Stand by. Here we go. We're about to do this. I switched my sources around. Does this work? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
And I can hear you. All right, let's rock this thing. We did it. We just barely.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's right. It's raining here in Southern California, which to you is like, yeah, big deal. And it's only in like the high 50s. So, you know, we're struggling out here in Southern California. You're in Chicago, right?
No.
Oh, where are you?
I am formerly Chicago, but I quit winter in 2011 and moved to Miami.
Because you're smart. Okay, well, let's start and let's do this. Say, this is Tracy LaLonde and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
This is Tracy LaLonde and you're watching the Break It Down Show.
Okay, it took a long time to get going, but we are going now officially, and I love it. Hey, so you are a big believer in something that I believe in, and that's one of the reasons why when Heather suggested you, I said yes. One of the things I say that we need to do is we need to gather joy and keep track of it. Every time joy hits our emotional bandwidth, we need to go, man, that was incredible. You know, like you can definitely describe the last time you were pissed off. It was probably 10 minutes ago. But when was the last time you were arms up in the air, mouth wide open, just overwhelmed by joy or wonder or awe? All of these things are important to collect.
Absolutely. And most people don't pay enough attention or find enough of those collection points.
Yeah. How long did it take you to figure this out?
Well, you know, I would say that I'm generally a happy person. However, like many, I let success and that drive for success really take over my life. And in 2016, it hit a breaking point for me. And I was showing so many physical symptoms of that stress and I was not a happy person. I definitely lost that joy. But since then, I ended up leaving a business that I was a partner in and went on what I called then my joy journey. I tattooed joy to my wrist as a visual reminder to not let myself get to that place again. And so I've been on that journey since 2016 to try to make joy a proactive and intentional daily choice.
Yeah, I love it. I was looking at your LinkedIn profile and just trying to get a sense for who you were, because anyone who gets to this point does something and then they get there, they accomplish it, become a partner in a firm. Oh my God, right? And you're like, what the hell am I thinking? This is terrible. This is not what I wanted. I pushed and pushed and pushed, ignored all the pain to get to here, and I don't like it here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was a lot of it that was great. I mean, I loved the work. I loved my clients, but the lifestyle of it, like the work was awesome, but the lifestyle of it was what was making me pretty miserable.
When you're in that, when you're, you know, Tracy 5 years before, and you're on the trajectory up and you are going up and you do love your work, you still have work-life balance. We all talk about it. We probably all struggle with it. But what was it like for you, 5 years before you became a partner and you could see the future and like my 5-year plan is to be partner and all these things? Talk about who that person was.
That person was super keen and super eager and willing to do whatever it took to be successful. And I don't know if that's the right answer. In fact, that's what I'm trying to advise people not to do, frankly, is to pay attention to both of those elements of your life and to train ourselves how to seek success and also seek joy simultaneously.
How does one do? I mean, how old do you have to be to figure that out?
Well, hopefully with readers of the book, they can get younger and younger. Because unfortunately, okay. I think it takes a lot of us. We get into our 40s and we're exhausted. And mind you, I don't have children. So, for those folks who have families and growing families and all those other dynamics that are involved in that, I mean, that's even more of a pressure cooker lifestyle.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Can you describe? I mean, again, people are right now in their, their mid-career. They're pushing. They're making it. They're trying to get to the next level. I don't know if you recall, and maybe you're not old enough to recall this, but there was a commercial back like in the early '90s, and it was little kids saying the words of adults, and one of the kids says, "I'm hoping to claw my way up to middle management."
Yes, I do remember that. I do, because I'm older than you think.
I was trying to give you an old lady out. That's what
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, it's good facials and other things that we do for ourselves.
Yeah, dudes could just throw a beard on, and if I chose, I could dye it, and you'd think I was 27 or whatever. Yeah. When you think about these things, though, like how do you get before you even mid-career, right? Like right now, one of the things I do every year is I go to my high school in times when we're allowed to, and I talk to the seniors that are about to graduate, and I'm like, hey, you're about to be adults, so I'm going to treat you like adults. What do you want to know? I'm you from the future. What do you want to ask your future self? And, they don't get it for the most part because they're young. And that's what I'm trying to do is just turn the light on for a minute, even if it's just for a second, and let them see kind of what the future is like. But why would you race through, go spend $200,000 of someone's money to get a degree when you don't even know who you are yet? I mean, some kids do, but that's not a reliable path. How do you start this even earlier when like the whole world is a dream, the whole world is possible, and work-life balance? I don't have time for that because I don't have enough work. My life is great, but I don't have enough work,
Yeah. Well, and you tapped into something though. It's about awareness. And I think younger generations today have more awareness than maybe you and I did, of the generation that we're a part of, where you were told that it's hard work and a good work ethic are part of your character. You can't shun that because it makes you who people think you are. And so, I'm hopeful that younger generations will continue to be more self-aware than maybe you and I were. And for those who aren't yet, that they can get on that path and frankly, in a more broad way than maybe what most folks are used to. And that really, for me, is what I've learned over the last 5 years in this joy journey, now Joychiever journey, is really about helping people to get really refined in their self-exploration so they can make choices across all dimensions of their lives for joy.
I suppose if you're a parent in your mid-career and you're trying to figure this out for yourself, it's hard to also teach your kid how to do this if you yourself are a bit of a mess, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. They're just trying to get up every day and get everybody where they need to be, let alone take care of themselves.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm curious about is and especially with moms, and I know a lot of moms that are like about to be empty nesters, and that kind of thing. And they've struggled to take time for themselves. And there's no way to be joyful, either one, without taking some of that time to take care of yourself, to get the right amount of sleep. I mean, it's like, hey, you guys can stay up, but I'm going to bed. It's like, get some rest. But how do we train ourselves to make it okay, especially moms, to take time for ourselves and care and find something that truly rejuvenates us and truly centers us?
Yeah. I think it's really hard for moms because they feel like they're failing in every aspect of their lives. Because if they're working moms too, they don't have enough energy to give to work. They don't have enough energy to give to kids. There's absolutely nothing left for themselves. And I could speak to the work thing about focusing on your most joyous strengths, but let's first focus on the me part. And I think it's instilling that value within the family that it's okay, give folks permission and almost make it a mandate, because not only does mom need time, but likely dad or the other caregivers, in the household probably would benefit from that me time too. And that's what I want folks to realize, is that me time is a gift to others as much as it's a gift to yourself, because you're going to be more calm, less irritable, a little more patient if you can grab a half an hour to get your nails done or walk the dog or spend 10 more minutes in the shower just to let the steam, calm you down, whatever it is you can find. But that's why I call it the me moments market, is I want someone to shop every week for some me moments and to make it something that everybody can do in the family.
Yeah. These are like the Rachel Ray thing with food. Like it's 30 minutes to cook this dish, right? This is 30 minutes that you can do to balance your life out. And again, like on the mom thing, and we can talk about dads in a minute, but moms can't be their best. Like we oftentimes, and rightfully so, we champion single moms, because they're great. But it's not necessarily the best way to raise a kid because it's really hard. There's more jobs than a mom can do by herself. Moms are incredible. Moms are super. But at some point, we all need help. We need time for ourselves. We need to figure things out. And also, turns out, kids got to be able to learn how to do things for themselves too. Like we can't just do everything for them. Like they have to become self-sufficient. And again, as a mom, it's really hard to find that because there's joy in making a sandwich for you're like, I'm watching my soap opera. This is my hour. Mom, can you make me a grilled cheese sandwich? Well, there's joy in that. So how does the mom balance these needs with the the other side of it of like, hey, you know how to make a grilled cheese sandwich. I'm a good mom. I taught you how. Time to get to it. This is my time right now.
Yeah. Well, Pete, I think it's all about intentionality of choice.
Okay.
And that choice doesn't have to be the same every day. So there may be some days where she just says, I need to watch this soap opera today because I have had it up to here, and if I don't take this time, I'm not going to be a pleasant human to be around. And there are days where making that sandwich is going to fill her joy cup.
Yes.
But it's intentionally thinking about what is it that I need today and right now in this moment. So, and neither one makes you good or bad. It's just joyful in choice.
My buddy Jim is asking a question. Does Tracy attribute the overachieving drive to environment or upbringing? He's curious about that.
That's a lifelong question. There's so many things that we could ask that question about. I think it's a little bit of both. For me personally and other overachievers whom I've known, the seed often starts with some sort of influence in your childhood, either from parents' expectations of you, or maybe your upbringing was, a tougher upbringing, and so you wanted to pull yourself out of an environment. I mean, there's lots of reasons. So I think there is definitely some influence of your environment and what you spend your youthful years in. But then over time, I think we assimilate expectations of ourselves and then make them our own drive and pusher, but they're all influenced by the environment in which you're raised in.
What about folks when there's just not enough of anything? I don't want to say they're underachievers, but people who are like, I get up, I don't have time for a workout because I got to get to work. I got to finish this presentation. I drive an hour and a half each way. Back in the olden times when we did these kind of things, I come back, I spend as much time with my kids as I can before I pass out, fall asleep because I've got to do this again the next day. Like, how do you take someone who's like, I would love to do all these things. I would love to read more books. I would love to pick up my guitar. I'd love to play some video, whatever it is. And Tracy, there's just no time. How do we reckon? I mean, as being an adult, this is the problem, right? We need 36 hours to do our 24-hour day.
Yeah. And by the way, I fall prey to the same thing still.
Oh, same.
And I also am accepting though that that may just be the age and stage of life that we're in. When you have a family you have to be responsible for in the evenings, and you have to work, to make the money to provide for that family, then that may just be how it is for a while. So I want to make sure that the time that we are spending is joyful. So for example, having work be comprised of the strengths that actually invigorate us. Because there's lots of things that we're good at that I don't know about you, but there's lots of things I could do and that I'm good at that I don't actually like doing. Right. Little secret. So if our time is going to be spent right now, given the age and stage of it's going to be work and it's going to be family, then let's make the work as best as it could be, and then let's make the family part. Make sure that we're having fun as a family and we have hobbies that we share together and do things together, and finding those me moments as you can, throughout the week, so that we don't have to live into what I call the one size syndrome. Like, I don't want you to delay joy till the kids grow up, or until you get the right position at work, or till you make a certain amount of money. If that's where you're at, let's make that time as joyful as we can.
I like it. I mean, again, gathering joy. And here's another thing is we're all so damned competitive and hard on ourselves. It's fine to just grab a little bit of joy every day, and just let it accumulate over time and let it build up and just remind yourself, hey, right now I'm going to take these 5 minutes. I am going to go for a walk or whatever it is. And then your day here, I used to be deployed a lot in combat zones, right? And I'm a napper. And so I would be getting stuck. I'd be getting tired, and I'd say, I'm going to go take a nap. And some of the younger guys would be like, oh, you're a half-day guy. And I'm like, yeah, listen, I promise there will be a war when I get back. It's like, I'm not going to miss the end of it,
Right. Yeah. It's true. But I did it yesterday because I've been retreating into some bad habits where I've let my boundaries, especially now that we're working from home, we have no commute anymore. We have no natural transitions between work and not work. And so it's easy to just be, I'll just do one more email, or I'll just do this 10-minute thing. And suddenly it's an hour and a half after you told yourself you were going to stop working. And yesterday at 5:18, I looked at my list and I said, I could do those things. By the way, none of which were going to be fun for me, but stuff that has to get done at some point. Right. Or I could put my shoes on and go walk outside. I live in a beautiful place with beautiful weather, and I called my favorite uncle. And so, it's just sometimes you just got to have self-discipline for yourself and give yourself permission to say, that was the best use. And then I called another girlfriend. So I spent an hour just circling my neighborhood, and I was a totally different human being than if I had stayed chained to my desk until 6:30.
One of the things on, I'm going to say tens of thousands of moms' lists today is express the dog's anal glands. That is absolutely a thing that happens all the time. And it's like, or,
Right.
Because I never even knew that was a thing until recently. And I'm in my 50s, What do you have to do?
That's going. I unfortunately am not able to have animals because we travel too much typically. But that's going on the honey-do list. That is coming off my list. That is getting outsourced to someone else.
And that's the thing, right? Like, let someone else do that, And while that's being done for the dog, you go do something that provides joy for you. Right. I want to discuss when someone's a mess right now. They're watching this show right now and they're saying, okay, I get it. Pete's funny, anal glands and all that stuff, but I haven't got the first idea. It's like saying, hey, be more romantic. I don't know how to do that, So what are the foundational things? Like, what are the things you need to start working on? Because you can't just start being great at gathering joy from the first moment. You need to build up to it like anything else. So what are the foundational things you have to have in your bag that you need to develop to be good at this?
Yeah, there's two places that I want people to look at. One is, what is it you're paying attention to in the world? And the brain, believe it or not, we take in 40 million bits of information every second via all 5 of our senses. I'm sorry, not 40, 11 million bits, but we can only process 40 of them at a time. And we are wired to focus on the negative. It just comes from surviving when we were Neanderthals in the tundra. We can retrain our brains to notice the positive more than the negative, because literally your reality is a choice. You and I can walk into the same room, exact same scene, and come out of it with a completely different perception of what's happening. And it's because we're paying attention to different things. And so it's doing things that can help you notice more of the positive, i.e. engage your brain instead of your amygdala going crazy and having the flight or fight response. You do things that trigger the frontal cortex and release dopamine and serotonin and all those other good hormones. So things like mindfulness, meditation, gratitude, kindness, exercise are those things that'll help that. That's number one. Number two, and I am on a mission, is to get clear about your own personal values and how to define them. And I mean like list clear, like you can list them. Because lots of people say, well, family is a value or this is a value, and they're kind of willy-nilly about it. Once you get clear about your values, that's like, everything clears. Because so many of us live counter to our values. We're not doing things that are feeding those values. And so those would be the two things: is start to focus on the positivity of just how you perceive the world, and then get clear about your values so you make choices in alignment with them.
I did a limited series podcast style, like a documentary, a docupod, if you will, on people who had been to prison for significant crimes, murder, that kind of thing. And what they picked up along the way as they rehabilitated themselves was they had to do these lists, whether it was through some kind of institutional group, an informal group, or just mentorship from older inmates. And one of the guys, Kenyatta, his the OG on the arts, like, I want you to write down a list of the things that describe you, that define you. Who do you want to be? And then basically, once he did that exercise, he's like, now look at your life, and are you getting more consequences or benefits from your choices? Where are you putting your time? And it's like, man, I'm putting my time into politics on the yard. I don't got time for that anymore. And it became crystal clear, just like you were saying, that inventory. And it's okay. Here's the other thing I always want to say, not to do your job for you, but it's okay to screw up and have to re-gear and get back to it. Like the wagon, like I fell off the wagon. The wagon stops when you fall off of it. You can always get right back on and get back to it, And so it's a process for sure to learn these things. And then you're going to over-gear towards joy, and you'll be like, I'm spending too much time moving around. I need to spend more time with, but at least you're working from that plan that you're talking about. That's great. That's great stuff. I mean, being able to lay that out, it does make things clear.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you don't really know if something's good for you until you try it out. In January, I was going down a particular path with an idea for one of my businesses, and in an overachiever way, I was, after it and going after it really hard, and I was super stressed and I wasn't sleeping. And finally, after 3 weeks of that, that's when it dawned on me. I was like, not a good idea, not joy inducing. Just because it's possible doesn't mean it doesn't make it plausible. Right. And so the good news is now, because of the way that I'm developing joy in my life, it takes me 3 weeks to notice that instead of 3 years.
Yeah. Because some things are worth the sleepless nights to get up and off the ground and get moving. But you've got to decide that, what that is. We had a guy on the show. He's a very, very notable drummer, and he drums for like people like Pink and, just incredible acts. He's like, they don't pay me to play the drums. They pay me to be away from my family, to be on the road, away from the things that I love, this restaurant that I love to eat at, that's what they pay me for. Not a lot of people can play the drums, but that's why you're paying me. And that's why I charge what I charge, because I know what that is. I know what the value is,
Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to these things too, expressing that to Pink or whoever your boss is, I would suggest that, look, I know it's terrifying when it's your livelihood and everything, but sitting down and saying, I have to re-gear my life a little bit. I love working here. I'm on the team. However, my work-life balance is out of whack. And I don't know. As a boss, I would be like, oh, man, let's get to work on this. What do you need from me? What can I expect differently, or whatever it is? I want that conversation, because I don't want you in whack, not out of whack.
Yeah. I was fortunate financially to be able to take those 8 months off. However, that isn't my recommendation for people, because I think if I had some better awareness and things beforehand, I might not have had to do that. Now I value that time, so I'm not saying that's time poorly spent by any means, but I want folks to have that clarity before they get into that super stuck place and be able to talk to folks. And candidly, I talked to my partners, but we were in a business situation that the change that I needed wasn't going to be allowed within the structure,
right,
that was present. And that was unfortunate for all of us in lots of ways. But it is what it is. And that doesn't make them bad or wrong. It's just, right, I was no longer a fit for what I wanted.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, is maybe you need to readjust your life and not be bound to a life that doesn't have enough joy. And not that you need to be super giddy and happy every day of the week, but maybe it is time to find something else. We can't be too afraid of that change to pursue it in terms of our well-being, especially if we are a mom or a dad. Because if we're not our best selves, setting a bad example and not doing our best to help our kids get through it. Parenting is not all carrying a rock around on your back, trying to like endure every crap thing you have to endure. There's plenty of that, but it doesn't have to all be that.
Yeah. Well, and you're hitting on something, because for whatever reason, at least in the US culture, it requires a whole lot of courage to choose for joy. We are such workaholics in this country, as compared to some European countries and some other places in the world. I mean, my husband's born and raised in Germany, and they get 4 to 6 weeks of vacation a year standard. We start at 2.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with this picture.
And restart at 2. Hey, I'm new here. I've been around for 2 years in this industry. Well, you get 2 weeks. What?
I know. None of us, I don't know about everybody else, but I'm not going to go into the grave wishing I worked more. I know that. Even though I love my work and Joychiever now is my calling, I'm just not. I want to have more in my life than just work.
One of the things we have in our life, and you talked about this, you called your favorite uncle, but that fellowship time, especially right now, we've lost so much of that. And even if you're an introvert, you still have your people, that do things for you, that lighten up the day. And also, and I would say even more importantly, you light up other people too. You can't deny them your presence, because you're too busy to do things. The people you grew up with that you love, no matter what, call those people, call your friends, be parts of each other's lives as much as possible. But I mean, those times calling that favorite uncle, we need to do it.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, my mom lives about 2.5 hours away on the other coast, and we've just had her come over. So what started off at the beginning a year ago now, like, oh, just come over for 2 weeks till we sort out this whole COVID thing. That turned into 6 weeks. And then she just keeps coming back, and that's one of my people. And she's been home for a little while, and she's coming back this weekend. And I said, just spend March. Let's just be in community together, because she's living by herself, and she's a very able-bodied, 77-year-old, and very bright and lively, but sitting in her house all day trying to be safe and avoid the illness is not good for her either. So I love having her here. Also, by the way, she makes dinner for us from time to time, and she does my laundry.
Yes.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? She gets to be a mom in these occasions. And not that mom's like, my favorite hobby is laundry, but there's no person who's seasoned, that doesn't want to be valuable in someone's life. Yeah. And unless they're valuable, it's just soul crushing for them, and it's hard. They need joy as well too. How do you help bring joy to other people's lives? Not you specifically, but how does a person do that so they increase their joy quotient going out as well?
Well, I think kindness is a place to start. I mean, it was National Kindness Day a couple weeks ago. Random Acts of Kindness Day, I think it's called. There's days for everything, but I happen to like that one in particular. And what people don't realize is that you benefit from being kind. It's called the helper's high. That when you are kind to someone else, you also feel the benefit of that kindness. And I think we just have to give people a break and hear them out. And that simply is a form of kindness, because our world right now is so critical and so quick to share their criticism of others in so many forms of media and in a whole host of ways, that if we could just figure out how to make the world a little bit more kind, I think there would be a lot more joy.
Yeah, I mean, and Jim brings up a point here about the glass half empty media. We just dug up Dr. Seuss the other day. The guy's been dead for 30 years. And we just dug this guy up to spit on him. Come on.
I know.
If that's the worst of our problems, Tracy, we're doing pretty good. If we got to pick up old people and yell at them.
But then again, why can't we just let it be? We're just really reaching now, because we just have to be critical about something.
Yeah. I mean, in my work, I have to be on social media because it's how you communicate the stuff that you're creating. Just like ABC has to be on social media. But if you don't need to be, I got to think that other than keeping up with your friends on Facebook or whatever, it's just not a whole lot of value. I don't want to go to Parlor because it leans right, or stay on Twitter because it leans left. I just want to go over those good people that enrich my lives, and I do the same for them.
Yeah, and I totally agree, and that's where I think we have to be more stringent about unfollowing or not paying attention to those sources that are not helpful to you. And well, yeah. And you know, and also just as a habit is, I do not look at social media after 9 o'clock at night, or email, by the way. I just like that is a rule, and I've worked really hard to implement that rule, and it's working for me. Because you know we gotta keep boundaries around that stuff. Otherwise, it has this weird way of just infiltrating your brain and your energy and your emotion. It is an addiction that we all have, and so we've got to keep control of it.
Plus, like you get to a certain point in the day, and Dr. Ruth is going to tap you on the shoulder and be like, "Hello, you need to give love to your special one," you know. Yes. If you don't, like, that's part of the joy thing too, right? Like all of these, like it's like not just work-life balance, it's work and all the other things balance. I mean, it's easy to be middle-aged and be like, "God, who's got time for sex?" You know, I mean, it's just, it's so good. And I'm not trying to be, salacious here or anything. That's why I brought in Dr. Ruth, but she's right. We all need to take care of the sexual part of our beings and our partner's being a lot more than we probably do. I mean, if you're doing it, great, God bless, that's awesome. But there's plenty of us that are struggling to figure that part out. And being on social media at 9 or being on your loved one at 9, which one's better? You know?
Yeah. Well, and you know, my husband and I, for most of our time, most of our 11 years together so far, we've both traveled a ton. And so prior to COVID, we're pretty much a weekend kind of deal, except for vacations and things. Now that COVID's here, we ended up setting the alarm a half an hour earlier than usual. And instead of picking up the phones, we snuggle for that half an hour. And we don't do anything until that half an hour has passed. I mean, we talk and catch up, and you say we don't do anything with our phones, you know. So we've just kind of made that a priority, and it's invaluable time.
It sure is. That time in bed, quiet, just you and your someone or someone's, whatever you guys do, whatever. But that time it is primal. You know, safe, warm, together. It's just good medicine. Yeah. Yeah,
it is. It is.
What made you want to write the book? I mean, you've done a lot of things. Yes, you're a go-getter and overachiever, but why a book?
Well, you know, when I first took those 8 months off and called it my joy journey, a number of friends said, "Oh, you should write a book." And I think they were kind of thinking of the Eat, Pray, Love kind of book, because I traveled a bunch, went to Thailand and China and Brazil for a wedding and all these kind of cool places. But I thought, I don't know if I'm that interesting and Julia Roberts would want to play me in a movie. But it did plant a seed, and I've been a public speaker for my whole life. And so later on, in starting my own business and thinking about what is it that I want to talk about, I've been coaching lawyers and big law firms on how to develop business and do public speaking, which has its reward and it's been successful for me. But I thought, do I really want to do that for the next 10 years? I don't know. And so that's really like, I know I want to talk to people about something. I'm in the business of helping people be the best versions of themselves. What is it? And that's when I looked at my wrist and thought, it's about joy. And so I started doing a bunch of reading and research just to see what else was out there and who was talking about it, and realized that there wasn't quite the roadmap to look at your life holistically. And that's really what inspired me to write the book. And the book is not as much as about selling books as it's as much about, I would just want to get out into the world and give people this roadmap so that they can be on their journey and talk about it and engage with them, on their own path. So the book is the starting point.
Say it again.
The book is the starting point.
Right. You were a road warrior in your professional career. It's in your bio. You just talked about it, on the road all the time. Looking back now, what do we owe our company, our bosses, in terms of hours in a week? I mean, look, I get it if you're trying to make partner and all that kind of stuff, and you have to sacrifice a lot to get there. But at the expense of joy, what do you think? Is it 70 hours a week? Is it 100 hours a week? What's the cap where you're like, anything more than this and you're bananas?
Yeah, I don't know if I could put a number on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, because for a long time it was fine. I loved it, and I thought it was cool that I had. Well, I still think it's kind of cool, to have certain status on airlines, and by the way, all of those perks paid for some really fabulous vacations with free airfare and hotels, and and for some of my clients, I got to and still get to go to really cool places. I've been to Dubai and Singapore, and but it's a cool place I wouldn't normally get to go. So I don't know if I can put a number on it.
Right.
I think it's more about a stress level, and there are 27 signs or clues that your body is under stress. And you can look them up. You can Google it. It's also in the book. But at my highest, I was experiencing 60% of them all at the same time. And that's how I'd rather measure it, is to say, because stress isn't always bad. It's just when it gets to a place and it's chronic and it manifests to so many symptoms of your body. I mean, my body was literally crying uncle. That's when it's too much for you. Because if you're loving it, for the first 5 years, it was awesome. I would do it every day. I would do it. I mean, I had no problem with it whatsoever. And then I started to get a little more tired. And then I started to get a little bit bored. And then, so over time, I think it's really more about monitoring your stress level and your physical health more than capping it to a certain number of hours.
Sleep has to be a big part of that, I'm assuming. Like if you're not sleeping well, for whatever reason is, if you have a CPAP machine, there's some maintenance issues that are probably not being addressed.
Yeah. Well, I think I've coined sleep as the fountain of youth.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all looking for this elixir, and we have availability to it every night. Now, there may be a variety of reasons why our sleep gets interrupted, and I certainly struggle with some of them myself, just age and stage of life and different kinds of things. But sleep is such a critical priority. And unfortunately, sleep gets a bad rap. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it does. Yes.
That if you're weak, if you want sleep, if you get 8 hours of sleep, you're somehow less capable and competent. I think that's ridiculous. Whoever started that nonsense needs to be, discussed too. But
I know some people that can survive on 4 hours sleep, but I know a lot of people that fake that. And then I tell them, like, I lay down and within, 10 seconds, I'm asleep. If they're so badass, why are they jealous of my ability to fall asleep? I'm going to sleep right now.
Yeah, and there are numerous studies that link, sleep deprivation to cancer, heart disease, Alzheimer's. I mean, there's a book that I think is just fabulous called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. I recommend that everybody reads it.
Okay.
Because it shows you not only the bad things that can happen from not getting sleep, but more importantly, it lays out all the great things that happen when you do sleep. And he does it in a way that's really accessible because he's a researcher. And I think that masterclass series, I think I saw recently that he has a masterclass out as well if someone wants to take it in that way. But that book alone really kind of revolutionized how I think about sleep.
And are you better at sleeping now?
Much so. I mean, it was always a priority for me, especially being on the road. When you get on the road, it gets exciting. I would go to the bar and have a glass of wine and maybe have 2 glasses of wine, 3 glasses of wine. Not good for sleep, not good for performance the next day. Then over time is like, okay, sleep comes first, then exercise comes second. And now I don't drink anything during the week because it's just not helpful for me. I have plenty on Friday night, so don't feel bad for me. But yeah, and even in COVID, because I'm not traveling now, I've worked on a sleep schedule, and I'm pretty regimented around. I head up to the bed around 9:30, and my personal schedule is a 10 to 6 time frame, and it works beautifully for me. But our bodies crave habit. They crave consistency. Yeah. And that particular technique has really kind of helped me on that sleep front.
if you look on the screen of the Why We Sleep by Matt Walker, there's a link there to that. If you get it through that Amazon link, that also helps us out a little bit. And in general, if you're watching on Facebook, that's awesome. I also love it if you watch on YouTube because we get paid a little more there. But either way, wherever you watch, it's always great. Just subscribe and keep yourself notified whenever we're going to go live on these things. So, and then also don't forget, we're going to make sure we put up Tracy's book here too. Just go to her website. That's probably the best thing. Go to joychiever.com. If this stuff is like, man, I got to get better at this, which you probably do. I mean, unless you have a real inventory, we all need to do a better job of this. Drinking is, it's one of those things where like, it's easy to do it more than you need to without even being anywhere near being an alcoholic, but it is so detrimental overall. You know, we have to be, especially as we get older, we have to be more deliberate. But then again, when people say glass half empty, half full, I say, let's do shots and get a smaller glass, because there is some joy in that. What are some things that are just very fast, instant joy things, regardless of gender or anything else? Like, what are some things that we should be looking at? Like, what can I do today, tomorrow, this week, just to bring a little joy into my life?
Get outside. Number one, nature therapy. Totally get outside. Number two, call somebody who makes you smile. Call somebody who makes you smile. Number three, find that me time for yourself every week, even if it's only 15 minutes. Just find it and pick something that makes you fun. Four, buy flowers for yourself. Have flowers sitting on your desk or something, and by the way, that's male or female. Flowers make us happier. They provide color, especially if you live in a place that has snow. You need that color. So those are just a couple ideas that come to mind off the top of my head.
Yeah, no, that's great. Those are all good things. I mean, flowers are always nice. Just doing something nice for somebody, get that giver's high, What can you do to
be nice to yourself?
Yeah, that too. Yeah. What I've run through a lot of questions. What should I have asked you that I haven't?
Oh, there's so many things to think about. The other thing that I think is important is we need to have hobbies. We need to play. Play makes us more interesting. And they go the whole range of what you could do, from a hobby on your own or hobbies with other people. I like food. I love food. And so dining out with my friends is a hobby. And I love trying out the new restaurants. The Miami scene has a lot of great new restaurants constantly, because a lot of chefs come from other cold places and want to open restaurants here. It's training your dog to do whatever you want to train your dog to. Or recently I do a Friday joy journal, gives little inspirational kinds of things that people can sign up for. And so I put on there a video about magic tricks. Like, there's a guy on YouTube who will teach you how to do magic tricks, and they're actually doable. You and I could do them today if we read it. Or whittling. Like, who whittles? Maybe let's whittle. So I think it's important to have something else to do aside from work and family, and exercise could be your hobby too. That is a hobby of mine, although it just feels like a survival strategy, so it doesn't really feel like a hobby. But having something else to do, I think, is a additional critical component to joy.
Yeah, a good hobby. You're right about that. And when you're a little kid, you love to paint, you love to draw, you love to do all these different things. Like, okay, so I like to swim, and I'm way better at it than I used to, but there is this invisible bubble around the pool. Like today, it was freezing. It was like 59 degrees when I got in the pool. And I know that the water's warmer in the pool than it is right now, me standing on the edge of the pool, but my swimsuit on. But there's this bubble that I have to break through. And then once I'm in the pool, I know I'm going to have a great time. I'm going to be great. My brain is just going to go on like descramble, and it's going to go wherever it wants to go. And I'm going to come out feeling like $1 million. But there is that barrier there. And as an adult, I can go, I know that barrier is there, and I'm just going to jump right through it because now it's time to swim, whatever. But you're right. The things, the hobbies, the things that we do, that no matter what you do, even if it's a hard hobby, you feel great afterwards and you can't stop talking about it. And you do it with somebody else and you meet people. Those are great hobbies.
Yeah. Well, and this year's been tough for my husband and I because travel is definitely a hobby of ours. I mean, one year in the past, we were in 11 countries in 1 year. So what we do now, in fact, somebody called it travel porn, but we will get on the TV and maybe pull up YouTube or something and pick a country and just watch as many videos as we can and explore, different countries, since we can't go there physically right now. But it fulfills that need for travel to explore.
You can also make dishes from that country. So if you're fascinated by Morocco, you can go make Moroccan cuisine. There's all kinds of resources for that, and again, watch YouTube videos and everything. No, I love it. I was going to put up here the thing. Go to joychiever.com to get all of the stuff that Tracy's working on. You can also grab her book, which is streaming by there. If you're listening on the podcast side, that will all be in the show notes and everything else. It's just, I love that you're doing this. I love that you're focused on this. This is part of balancing the scale in the favor of joy, because it's one of the words, I don't know if you know this or not, but it's one of the words that you can say joyous or joyful, even though they're synonymous. That's how important it is. We're like, just say it however you want to say it. Just get to it. There's a lot of you don't say laborful, you say laborous, or whatever it's going to be. But with joy, we don't care. We just want you to get in there and use it. And I appreciate you working so hard on giving us joy. Man, it's just, we need people like you. And I'm proud to give you my platform to talk about it.
Me too. I'm glad to be here. Well, and there's lots more to come. We're developing, because a lot of folks, like you asked earlier, where do I start? I know I'm stuck, but I don't know where to start. So we're developing a survey that's going to live on the website that will help people give somewhere to start. I've also got a number of different things that offering wise in addition to the book. So I'm going to be creating some online learning, some e-learning modules that folks can work through. We're going to offer some cohort kinds of coaching. So if you go there today and you get through it fairly quickly, keep coming back, because we've got a lot more in the works that we're super excited about.
Well, working at being joyful sounds like a good endeavor. Everybody go to joychiever.com. Stand by for 1 second. Let me run this video.
Hey, thanks for watching the show. I really appreciate it. Right here, you can subscribe. Please do that. It makes the show grow. Hit that notification bell so you know which incredible guest is coming up next. Down below is the PayPal link. You can put a small subscription in. That is an enormous help. All that money goes right back into the show. And then right up over here are the next episodes you should listen to, curated by yours truly.